So we feel like we should be able to work with State Department, Office of School Facilities, again, address any concerns and be able to start the project back.
Do you have any timeline on that?
Well, we'd like to move as quickly as we can. There's been at least a 6-month pause, if you will, and there have been some costs associated with that pause. We've had to secure the site. We've had to stabilize the site and so forth. So the sooner we can restart, if you will, those costs will stop adding up. And again, we can complete the facility for the benefit of the students that we serve.
So the report was released at 5 o'clock, so I haven't had the chance to read the entire thing. But he does point, the Inspector General does point out that there was perhaps some unauthorized or illegal procurement. So what would you say?
Well, the report does state that there may have been some things with in the procurement process that needs to be addressed, but they also, if you continue to read in there, that states if you do these things or what have you, there's a remedy to that. And we look forward to if some ratifications and such need to go to the board, bringing those to the board, again, addressing those issues and concerns so that we are able to move forward.
How do you respond to this line in the report? So the IG determined that the board's funding was permissible, however, as detailed, the failures and mismanagement of the district produced a $31 million unauthorized procurement.
Well, again, if there were some procurement concerns, those can be recognized. And again, if you keep reading further in that statement, it says in order to address those issues, to take a look at that, and there's a link in there. So that can be addressed if you read further.
Do you know how much money was spent since the project paused to now for the things like security that you had mentioned?
It's been approximately $286,000 at this point, but every day that continues to add up.
Superintendent Witherspoon, the report finds, and I'm reading here, that the district violated state law and local code ordinance by commencing construction without a building permit from the State Department of Education. Why did the district start building the school or the learning center without first getting that permit?
Excellent question. If you also look in the report, it also states that this has been a common practice across the state of South Carolina for a number of years, that districts would commence with a building project while permits were forthcoming, and that had been done across the state. That is outlined in the report, but we recognize what the report has said, that of course there was no permit, and we addressed that in October, in terms of October, December, that we did recognize that, but it had been the practice that construction projects across the state would commence.
Will it change the district's approach to projects going forward?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Will the report, impact the way the district approaches projects like this in the future? Will you wait next time, or yeah?
We will comply with the again, the recommendations that are in there, and certainly a permit, if you will, in hand as we move forward.
In the conclusions, it also says the district exposed itself to wasteful expenditures, contractual liabilities, costs associated with project delays, reputation damage, and insurance issues, and it cites a minimum of shutdown costs of $350,000. How do you respond to that one?
Well, as I've indicated, there have been some costs associated with the pause in the project. Again, site security, land stabilization, and the like. So that has occurred. But again, as we've already stated, had it been a practice across the state to begin projects with a permit forthcoming, yes, it has. And was there a pause because of that concern? Yes. Did it occur these costs that we're talking about? That is correct.
And would you disagree with the characterization that it's wasteful expenditures during that pause?
We would disagree with that term in terms of wasteful, that it had to happen. It was necessary expenditures that the site had to be stabilized, that the site needed to be secured.
Do you know when the protocol changed that it was not the procedure to start working before permits were fully secured?
Well, that we can't speak to, but we do know, and the IG does speak to this in the report, that that had been a common practice.
Dr. Bishop, for you, when you say the IG report emphasizes how state agencies and the General Assembly need to clarify the current law related to the permitting and oversight of early learning centers, could you just expound on that a little bit?
Well, we do want to work with these agencies and these different levels of government to make sure that we're going to properly do what we can to educate children, and especially those in the level of 3K and 4K. So we want to make sure that we're very clear as we move forward to building this Vince Ford Early Learning Center, that we're doing it right in accordance. So that's what it's about. It's making sure that we are opening up our communication lines, or continuing to communicate. That's the right word. Continuing to communicate with them so that we can do this properly.
And moving forward, so there wouldn't be another situation like this.
Well, yeah, we definitely just want to make sure we do it according to the guidelines and the recommendations of the IG report.
Dr. Bishop, in 2022, when the Inspector General had a report into the Richland 2 school district, their school board formed a committee to kind of lead the response in the districts, fixing the issues that the state found. We plan to do the same here?
There's no talk about that yet, but once the board comes and convenes at our next board meeting, we'll see if that's something that the board will entertain. But we do want to make sure that we are responsible to our stakeholders. We're responsible to our neighbors and our children and our parents to make sure that we are doing this properly. So we will do everything in a transparent manner and make sure that we are engaged in the community to ensure that this project is built properly.
So, I think it was in January, the board voted to switch from like a infant to, I think it was like maybe 5 years old, to instead do 4K through second grade, I think it was. Are those still the plans?
We did start out with a birth to 4 center, birth to 5 center. The board did approve a change in grade level, again, the 3K to 2 grade level, age level, if you will, with what's in the report in terms of some of the concern, if you will, the murkiness in the law around full day 3K, full day programs. The impact, as Dr. Bishop stated, is not only with Richland 1, but with schools starting in a couple of weeks, that impact could be here and across the state of South Carolina, if you will, because there are a number of, we have 50 here in our district, the number of full day 3K, full day 4K programs that we have, and then you multiply that to what it is across the state. So that's the piece that has to be looked at from the 3K, 4K program. But as you've indicated, we're looking at 3K through 2. So you have other grade levels that are not in question, if you will. So that in terms of how do we look at that piece and start the construction process back, that is something we're looking at doing hopefully as quickly as possible, while those other, some of these things that might have legislative implications, policy implications, regulatory implications get worked out.
So it's unclear at this point if you'll need to adjust that age range again to back to the original?
That is something, again, we will look at, but at this point, what we know is not in question is the K2 piece.
Yeah.
That's not in question. So.
There's 3 other elementary schools in that area. Is that really the best use of, that building?
Well, you also have, by the last information we got from the county, you have a little shy, and it might be over now, 2,000 home starts in that area. And that number may have gone up since that time. And we know with Kaufman Road, for example, that school is programmatically with what it has just in attendance and the Montessori program that's there, that they're full, if you will. We know down the street is Laurel Hill Elementary, and we know with the programs that we have there, reset, special needs, so forth and so on, that it's there. And so you have those schools, you have the 2,500 home starts. Are additional classrooms needed? We think so.
So if you switch to K through 2, because that's what you're able to do, will you then lose that state funding that came with the early childhood program?
Well, if you didn't start with the 3K classrooms, you wouldn't need that funding. You would still get the funding for the K2
Okay.
that you would have. So while there's some murkiness with the law and so forth, again, if we're talking about early childhood 3K and 4K, those are programs. I don't want us to conflate those. You've got the programs, and then you've got a facility that houses the programs. So at this point, while the programming at the 3K, 4K level may be in question, we still want to proceed with the building.
But will you have to give back any portion of the state funding if you're unable to operate a 3K or 4K program
No.
at that facility?
No.
Dr. Witherspoon, it's my understanding that the project was originally started kind of under the rationale of getting kids into schools as early as possible. I think it's starting with infants originally. With the kind of age range having moved up significantly, possibly even to kindergarten, will that change impact the efficacy of the center in serving the area's youngest students?
Not at all, because if we do this, I just spoke of what's happening in terms of growth-wise in that area. For example, if there's some relocation of some K through 2 classrooms, that would perhaps leave space in some other facilities, existing facilities, for additional 3K, 4K classrooms. So the need still can be met while some of these other aspects are being sorted through.
Have you had any conversation with the Department of Education about what it will take to get over those humps? And
That will be the next steps. As the report has been issued, the next steps will be, as Dr. Bishop indicated, what do we do now to obtain a permit and move the project forward?
So you're waiting for the issuance of the report?
The report has been issued as of 5 this afternoon.
But you're waiting for that before you can talk to the Department of Education about moving forward?
That is correct.
For people that might need some clarity, can you give rough ages for the K3, K2, the differences there, just general age groups?
Well, if we're talking about 3K, we're talking about 3-year-olds. If we're talking about 4K, 4-year-olds, and then kindergarten is generally your 5-year-olds. And
3K and 4K also called pre-kindergarten.
right.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
And you had mentioned the stakeholders before. What would kind of the message be to stakeholders now about continuing to make this situation right and moving forward to best serve them?
Sure, and we've said at the beginning, and we say now, we are committed to the facility. There is a need for it, and we want to do it correctly and making sure, permit-wise and all of those things, given the report that all those things are in place, so that we can finish the facility, make sure from a land standpoint, if you will, all of those things have been done. And while we've stabilized the site, we've seen the rain that has been happening for the last week and all. So those things still have to be addressed again, and that's still some costs that add up. And the best way to move forward, again, is to mitigate and stop some of those costs. Let's complete the project. And let's make sure we do that the right way, and we serve the students in that community.
As you all have mentioned, the report seems to create some murkiness around the kind of permitting picture around full-day 3K and 4K programs. It mentions the Department of Education, Department of Social Services creating some kind of provisional guidelines because of course the school year is weeks away at this point. What position does that put Richland One, maybe even other school districts in heading into the school year with this kind of uncertainty around pre-K prep?
Sure. In our reading of the report, it places every district in the state of South Carolina that has full-day 3K and 4K programs in a state of concern, if you will, and some temporary guidance or something to that sort is definitely needed.
Last questions? No more? I would encourage you all to go on our website. I know this was a quick turnaround in terms of getting you here and the information being posted, but we do have the district's response on the website, which includes the statements from Dr. Bishop and Dr. Witherspoon, as well as a more extended and updated frequently asked questions. So I would encourage you to all, when you have a chance to do so, to take a look at that, because I think it provides a lot of good information as well as some background information as to how we got here. So I thank you all for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.